I hope you've stolen each other's ideas and scribbled them down on the floating windows you're carrying. Another point I'm going to stop and pass to Leonardo Teixeira, who's going to introduce Simon Rooney.
Uh, it's our pleasure to have Simon joining us. He works at BBC. He's the creative director for AV Experiences, and he also, was part of the Ninja training we had earlier on this year, and he had quite an interesting experience to share with you. So, over to you, Simon.
Perfect, we've got you.
There we go. Hello. So I'm just going to say that. So this was a setup from the executive creative director for BBC User Experience and Design Division, which is the division I sit in, and effectively to be creative facilitators for innovation, to not just work in our own division, but also to help manage strategic change across a number of different initiatives in the BBC. So one of the areas I'm working in is called AV Experience, which effectively recognizing that the BBC has a very product-oriented environment, which means that a lot of product teams become quite siloed. And my role in particular, which started in January, was set up to move horizontally across those silos, so that effectively looking at audio and video experience across the BBC domain, and to facilitate with that, rather than being caught up in these different product areas. So that's where I was coming from, and it just so happened that as I started this project, I was then also invited to participate in the cubicle with the Pentacle team to look at ways of managing change and strategic development, really. So that was that, and what was really useful, what came out of that is through a one-to-one session with Leonardo, we did some gap analysis of my particular project, which we ascertained was very much a foggy project. We kind of knew where we wanted to go, but we didn't know the how and the what. So it was very much a foggy project, and that helped give me some structure, because up to that point I felt quite intimidated by this new project space and then this new initiative. What we also then did, which was very useful, is we set up a specific project space for my team, so that rather than just the senior management team being exposed to the pets and the various techniques that Eddie and the team were teaching us, I could also involve them directly, so that it wasn't me passing vicariously these skills to my team. They were actually participating with me, so that we were then able to do the gap analysis together, so that we could start looking at the project justification, the scope, and then aligning people around this difficult project. With the type of change of the foggy project, we could talk a little bit around what foggy projects entail, what type of leadership I would need to give, and how they would need to sort of support me in that leadership. We were also looking at the team fit grid profiles, so openly looking at how the team personality fits and where people's strengths are with relation to a foggy project, and where people's weaknesses were and where we needed to support or nurture. So very much in a foggy project, I guess you might have come across this, we needed more in favor of solvers and carers rather than knowers. We didn't, because it was very much an exploratory space, we didn't want people coming in and telling us what we should do. We needed to explore and understand the overall landscape before making any key decisions. During that period, we also, key to a foggy project was finding our stakeholders and then understanding who were the important ones to engage with. The BBC is notoriously full of stakeholders. If we were to engage with every stakeholder in my project team, it would be phenomenal. So it's prioritizing those, knowing who the important ones were, and just understanding how best to engage with them. One of the tools we use was Mr. Mindset, which you may have come across, and one of my colleagues thinks it's almost like a voodoo pet because it's very clever at helping to identify people who need to be engaged with on a regular basis, and perhaps those that are engaged with, say, on a less regular basis. So that effectively, especially the more trickier stakeholders, where we can then engage commitment. Projects like this, big strategic innovation changes, people hate change, so recognizing that people hate change and engaging with that emotional response and looking towards trying not to surprise them. I think a very difficult factor of what we were doing was that we did a lot of thinking and exploration, and yet we couldn't offer necessarily hard results or findings for people up front. And so the tendency then is to squirrel yourself away and work in secret. But that's dangerous because people need to see, even though you may not have any hard evidence to take things forward, at least people can see the methodology and the process, so that at least understand the complexity of the problem. So that's a very important part of that. Within the teams, I heard people mentioning hopes and fears and action replay. That was a really important way of getting both internally in the direct design team honesty, and getting people to perhaps say controversial things to promote that honesty. The action replay was really useful as a review process. We did use IDQB as well, allowing for us to have those awkward conversations. I've also used IDQB for line management as well outside of this project. So with the stakeholder stuff, there was also hard success criteria, so the fast, good, cheap, sharing expectation, planning and coordination, sticky steps, essential things to do to stop people lying, so that people were being open and honest about what they were collaborating on. The 5 Ps, purpose, principles, people, process, performance. Rapid was another one for understanding decision owners, forcing discussion. I think, especially with foggy projects, it's very difficult sometimes to know how to get sign-off and progress. So Rapid was a very useful tool for that. So that's real quick lightning run through a lot of the pets we use, but that's kind of like the process. We're always reviewing, and I was talking to Leonardo yesterday. I think we are finally moving out of the fog, but I'm a bit hesitant. But I think we're going to be reviewing the project space in the next few weeks. We're doing a lot of evangelizing at the moment with stakeholders with the work we're doing. So I think the next step for us, the big step, is the implementation cycle. So getting people to start implementing some of these recommendations and things that we've started to actually create a bit more focus around as a framework. We need to engage on an actual implementation process now. So this is where we may need to start getting into a kind of a quest kind of approach. So brilliant. Hopefully that's useful.
Perfect. I think
Absolutely
it's a round of applause. Great. Thank you.
Yeah, bravo.
Great.